As Alan struggled to fend off the cold wind, he noticed the winds from different directions changing their paths. This observation sparked an idea. He cast the wind airflow spell again, this time at a slightly different angle to the cold wind. Whoosh! The two winds met, and Alan felt his right sleeve flutter, while the rest of his body remained unaffected by the cold. So that's it. Alan realized he had discovered a small rule about the wind. He adjusted the angle at which the wind airflow spell collided with the cold wind, successfully forming a vortex around himself that kept the cold out. Excited by this breakthrough, Alan wondered if the second-level arcane whirlwind spell might be created similarly, by colliding two winds at a specific angle to form a whirlwind. Unable to sleep, Alan decided to experiment. If he could master the whirlwind, he would gain an offensive arcane spell. While a whirlwind might not slice through enemies like the Windblade spell, it could still disrupt and disorient opponents. Suddenly, Alan heard faint footsteps. He looked around in the cold moonlight and saw a small figure approaching cautiously. "Alan, brother! Alan, brother!" the figure called softly. "Ella, Ella, I'm here." Alan was surprised to see her. What was she doing here in the middle of the night? Ella, with joy, rushed into the stable and said urgently, "Alan, brother, we need to leave quickly. We have to get out of here." "Can't leave," Alan replied helplessly, showing her the shackles on his feet. They're too much. How could they lock you up?" Ella was distressed. She had planned to escape with Alan while the adventurers were asleep to avoid being bullied, but now Alan was shackled. "Did Master Carl agree to take care of you?" Alan was more worried about Ella being bullied than about his own situation. "Yes, but I don't want to be there. I want to stay with you," Ella said, her voice trembling. She had been living in town since she was 8. The town mayor initially cared for her, but she was treated as a servant without status. When Uncle Harold returned, she had someone to rely on, but he left soon after. Now, she didn't want to be separated from Alan. "What happened in the village?" Alan asked, his voice heavy with concern. Ella began to cry again and finally replied through her tears. "Everyone was killed by monsters the night we left. Many monsters attacked our village." Alan's mind raced, recalling the urgency with which Uncle Harold had urged him to leave, and the reason behind it. Tears fell from Alan's eyes as he gently held the fragile Ella. Both children wept together. Alan, usually better at hiding his emotions, felt a deep pang in his heart. Only Ella remained from Hawk Village, and he felt he had failed to protect her and allowed her to be bullied. Alan wiped his tears and tried to comfort her, but his attention was drawn to something glowing on her chest. He looked intently. "What's wrong?" Ella asked, noticing his gaze. She looked down and was surprised to see her pendant glowing. Where did this pendant come from? Alan felt a strange sense of significance about the pendant. As he got closer, the vortex around him became unstable. He noticed that the pendant seemed to draw away the arcane energy, maintaining the vortex. "I've had it as long as I can remember. My mother said she found me with it and put it around my neck. It can't be taken off," Ella explained, puzzled. She had never noticed anything special about it before, but now it was glowing. "Can't be taken off?" Alan recalled that some arcane artifacts, once imprinted with a mage's mental mark, cannot be lost unless destroyed or the owner dies. Ella's pendant being unremovable suggested it might be such an artifact. "Yes, and a long time ago I fell from a high place, and the pendant glowed, protecting me from harm," Ella added. "Interesting. It must be an arcane accessory, possibly a protective one," Alan speculated. The pendant seemed ordinary but could absorb arcane energy, suggesting it had a high arcane grade. He wondered why such an artifact would be with Ella. "I don't know. Mother said I was found outside the mountains," Ella said, shaking her head and tearing up as she thought of her family. Seeing her distress, Alan wasn't sure how to comfort her. He patted her shoulder and, noticing the first light of dawn, said, "Ella, you should go back. I'll go to Beast Ridge for training and come back to pick you up. We'll find Roy and Uncle Harold together." "But they will bully you," Ella worried. She felt guilty for causing Alan to become a laborer. "It's okay. Hurry back before they notice," Alan urged. He was determined to train at Beast Ridge, feeling too weak to even handle a few adventurers. "Okay, Alan, brother, be careful. I'll wait for you in Windsong Town. You must come back. I don't want to be alone again, Ella said, tears streaming down her face. Her years had been tough, with no family or support. Alan comforted her a bit more and managed to calm her down. Watching her fragile figure disappear into the distance, he felt a deep sadness. With all his relatives gone, only Roy and Ella remained, and Uncle Harold was missing.